Coming up in this episode.
Many people believe it's fundamental in Islam to hate Jews and Christians because there's a verse in the Quran that says, "O ye who believe, never take Jews and Christians as friends." If you believe that this verse is applicable to all Jews and all Christians, then you really have a problem, and you shouldn't be in Europe, you shouldn't be in America, you shouldn't be in the West. I was terrified when I saw From the River to the Sea in the Parliament. That was terrifying. And if I can say something to the English-speaking audience in the UK, From the River to the Sea means one thing: mass murder of Jews. I always say when I die, inshallah, I want to meet the Lord and tell him that I did my best to spread this message to stop the bloodshed. I wish to help the Muslim youth, Jonathan. I'll be very honest. I care about the Muslim youth in the Gulf, in Europe, and America. I hope that they come into a realization that Muslims and Jews are not enemies. Arabs and Israelis should live together. A Middle East where the prophecy of Isaiah come true. No nation shall not lift up sword against nation. They shall learn war no more. I really hope that Qatar understands the danger that Hamas leaders pose on the Middle East, and I really hope that Hamas leaders be expelled from Qatar. Brave, moderate Muslims, outspoken moderate Muslims. We need to speak up. When you talk about the atrocities that Hamas did, you need to speak up.
Shalom
Assalamu alaikum
and welcome to Peace Talk, a podcast about Israel.
and the Middle East.
I'm Jonathan Sacerdoti, a Jewish journalist in London.
And I am Moataz Khalil Mizu, Egyptian Muslim journalist based in London.
Today we're delighted to have with us Loay Alshareef, who is really very well known on the internet. We're delighted he's here in London in person with us today. So Loay, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Moataz.
Welcome to the UK. Let's start a little bit by just explaining what it is you're well known for around the world and what it is you've been doing, especially in relation to Israel and the Jewish people, Muslim people, Arabic and Hebrew.
I was well known when I first appeared to social media, in the social media presence. I was well known for teaching people languages through entertainment. That was the first thing in 2012. And I won the best educational idea in Saudi Arabia at that time.
Mazal Tov.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, thank God. And I kept doing this, and then I went to ancient languages because I have a great passion for languages and history. And then in 2017, I started to be outspoken for my passion for seeing a new Middle East where Arabs and Israelis, Muslims and Jews come together. That was 3 years before the Abraham Accords. When the Abraham Accords happened, I'm now pushing this dream forward. I believe in a Middle East where Arabs and Israelis, Muslims and Jews should reconcile, rehabilitate, and live together, inshallah. And I also do lots of work related to the most beautiful country in the world, I would say, the UAE, in showcasing its successes and its model as a great role model for other Arab countries to follow suit.
So 3 years before the Abraham Accords, that's an interesting detail there. So you're kind of a pioneer in that respect of the people-to-people level.
Yeah, I would think so, but I was not alone. I was also with lots of the courageous people I would give the credit to that believed in this fate, I would say. Our fate, Jonathan and Moataz, should always be focused that the Middle East has no other destination or no other destiny, I would say, rather than having peace between Arabs and Israelis.
Loay, you are a peace man.
I hope.
But you said before that you love Yehuda al-Maccabi.
Yeah.
Yehuda is a fighter.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, that's a very good question, mashallah. So Yehuda al-Maccabi, I love him because he stood for what is the most important thing to the Jewish people, which is monotheism. The story of Yehuda Maccabi, he fought against Antiochus Epiphanes because Antiochus wanted to Hellenize Judea. So it was some sort of a way to proselytize the Jews and make them all unified in this Greek-style culture that he wanted to impose by force. Yehuda revolted not because the reason why Yehuda revolted, not because he didn't like the ruler or didn't have any problem, any personal problem, but he had a problem that the most important thing for a Jewish person was being taken away from them. So this is why I adore Yehuda.
Which is also you love Youssef Ziedan.
Youssef Ziedan, the
Egyptian writer.
Yeah.
And
But I have my disagreements with him.
But you said before that Youssef Ziedan pushed you to think, and you wanted to speak to him about some. Youssef Ziedan, one of the characters which played to Youssef Ziedan.
Yeah.
We can say that Loay also played to Loay.
And no, but Youssef Ziedan provokes my thoughts. Okay. Youssef Ziedan makes me sometimes think that, oh, I need to meet with him and I need to refute so many things that he said. But he's I believe that he's a very, how to say this, great thinker, but I have great disagreements with him, especially when it comes to the Arabian civilizations, when he said, الحتة الوسطانية ما كانش حضارات. This middle place in the Arab world doesn't have civilization, because I did lots of researches.
But UAE and Saudi Arabia angry with him.
Yeah, of course.
After what he said about Aqsa Mosque.
Because, no, I'll leave Aqsa Mosque a bit, but I will say that Saudi Arabia is really a kingdom of civilizations. Like you have the Nabatean, Lihyanat, and other Arabian civilizations that emerged from this area. So it's unfair to say الحتة الوسطانية ما فيهاش حضارات, or the middle part doesn't really have civilization. And the UAE, by the way, also is rich with a presence of civilization at that time. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, he discovered an area.
The UAE Prime Minister.
Yes, the UAE Prime Minister and the ruler of Dubai. He discovered an area in 2020, which is 2002, which is now called Saruq al-Hadid. And I did a project with the government of Dubai Media Office to shed some light on this area. So the notion that this region doesn't have civilization and the only civilizations are in Mesopotamia or Iraq, modern Iraq and Egypt, it's unfair. So this is the point of argument that pushed me to think that I should have a seating with Youssef Ziedan and discuss this further with him.
Savava, but I wanted to ask you Middle East questions.
Yeah, sure.
In UAE and in Saudi Arabia, they let you to speak and to make peace. For example, I can't make this podcast in Egypt. I can't. And you know what happened to Dalia and what happened to many. Yeah. So in the Middle East, no one. Hi, Loay, how are you? Can you, you in Egypt, we see, can you drink with us a tea, please? And we have a tea in Egypt, I don't know.
I know it.
So I know that it's 200 nation, 200 nationality in the street.
And also, don't forget,
Israel,
of course, because UAE has a strong
also Saudi
commitment relation with Israel and the Abraham Accords.
But your relation, it's not regular. Now you are, sometimes I think you was the foreign minister.
No.
I think that.
No.
For example, here, many interview with the parliament, Jewish.
No, of course not.
I'm sorry, but we didn't. We come from the same.
You have the chutzpah, the Israeli chutzpah. You have the Israeli chutzpah. So I want to tell you one thing. It's, I tell you that in the UAE, there is a normal relation between Israel and the UAE when the Abraham Accords emerged. So it's normal. And I want to say that it's also, I believe it depends on what you say. So I don't really badmouth people. I don't badmouth even those who disagree with you or disagree with me, at least I would say. I focus on people-to-people relations between Arabs and Israelis, giving hope to those who think that Arabs and Israelis cannot live together, giving hope to those who think or believe that the enmity between Muslims and Jews is eternal, because I don't believe in that. I used to believe in that when I was a kid. I expunged that hate, and I have that knowledge on how to do so. So my message is always peaceful. I am pro-peace with Israel. I am pro the idea of integrating Israel in the Middle East. And I believe that the children of Abraham, Ishmael and Isaac, can prosper, thrive together. So it's not about, I know your question is very tricky, but it's not about this. It's about that I believe everyone knows what Loay is doing. And I believe that they don't see it a threat at all. They believe deep down that it's something good.
So
Threat to, I like how to say this, threat in a way that it's not adding good to the values between people. If Loay was doing something that would incite extremism or incite extremists to harbor hate or to have a hatred dogma or belief or a pathological creed that would be spread on social media, I believe Loay would have stopped, but this is not the belief of Loay anyway, thank God.
One of the reasons I think you've been successful at that is, as you say, you're not about criticizing individuals and criticizing other people's behavior.
I don't do that.
You're about building and finding ways to find commonality and what we share. And Abrahamic faiths and Abrahamic...
Yes. And if I have criticism, Jonathan, it would be criticism of the idea, not the person.
Right.
I wouldn't, what we call personal assassination.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't do that.
So my question is this, because I always watched your interviews and watch you speak about this with fascination, that you are very keen to point out that you are a Muslim and that you are still a Muslim. You fast, you pray.
And I care about my fellow Muslims as well. I don't want the Muslim youth, to be very honest, Jonathan, to go through some extremist views that I had when I was a kid, when I was 19 or 20.
These views are quite common.
I know, but because God put me through this journey to help others to expunge hate and to be a warning signal for them not to fall in this trap, not to fall in the traps of misinterpretation, some religious texts that tell you this or that. This is very important, and I believe that sometimes I control this anger that many people throw hate at you. And one of my friends, by the way, her name is Fatma Al-Harbi. She's a
We interviewed her in the podcast.
Yes, Fatma Al-Harbi one time told me, "Hey, I want to ask you a question. How do you manage your anger and don't get that angry when people throw hate at you?" I tell her, Fatma, one day I was in their shoes. I used to think the same about the eternal enmity between Muslims and Jews. I used to have these extremist views, and Baruch Hashem, when I had the first encounter with a Jewish family in Paris, France, I expunged this hate after that life-changing experience. So I have the knowledge on how to refute and debunk the lies and misconception and misinformation. And this is what I do on my social media.
And that's where I was going with this. So you're effectively able to teach people from your own experience
Exactly.
how you made that change. What made you choose Snapchat, let's say, over becoming an imam?
No, I'm not an imam. I don't have any ambition to become an imam.
But I ask it not. I don't mean it flippantly, because what you're doing is you're effectively a proud Muslim.
Yeah,
proud of your faith and of your.
I love my faith. But I'm against radical Islamists, and this is a difference between radical Islamism and a moderate Muslim. And I always say, moderate Muslims now should speak up, because I used to say we have two groups: radical Muslims and moderate Muslims. I add a third group: brave moderate Muslims, outspoken moderate Muslims. We need to speak up. When you talk about the atrocities that Hamas did, you need to speak up. That rape, kidnapping women and children and stuff, this is not what we believe as moderate Muslims. You cannot just, lay over and say, well, it's kind of resistance, but when Israel fights back, you whine. This is unfair. And what happened on October 7th was really outrageous and does not represent my value.
But I suppose my question then is, because obviously we're all on the same wavelength in that respect, how do you take what is a sizable non-moderate Muslim following in the world to the place where you are? And the reason I say that is, are they watching Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, or are they in mosques and madrasas learning what is effectively the opposite of your message?
Yeah, I always say that I learned the chutzpah from the Israelis, so I always be blunt and honest in all of my answers. I say, we have a problem. We have a problem in the mosques. We have a problem in the madrasas. We have a problem in education in whole. In education that teaches you that the enmity between Muslims and Jews is eternal, that some verses in the Quran, for example, the fierce enemies of the believers are the Jews, if these verses are taken to the literal meaning that they are applicable every time and everywhere, you would always have a problem. We need a reform. And when saying a reform, by the way, does not mean that you hate your religion. All the Abrahamic faiths went through
reform. We went through it. Every religion. Islam hasn't yet gone through it.
Islam hasn't yet, but we are the youngest Abrahamic faith. Yeah. And we need to have a reform. A reform, not in a way that we should have a different view of how we worship God. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about the reform that affects communities and societies, how to deal with one another. Mm-hmm. Are the verses in the Quran that talks about Jews and Christians applicable to all Jews and Christians? Or were they revealed in a time in a context that you have to take into consideration before you generalize this to everyone.
Loay, now you tell us that you speak with others, and I saw some videos to you. For example, your answer or reply against Maya Khalifa. For example, and you know that she is porno film, and you know.
So I was not in the same frame. It was a video refuting her claims.
So we can say that, and this is another Middle East question, you play the same role, which, for example, Youssef Haddad faced the Palestinian and Arab Israeli, which hate Israel. Now we can say that Loay Alshareef also speak with the Arabs in the Europe, which also hate Israel and they hate Jews and this is unofficial.
Yeah. Okay. Let me tell you one thing. So I don't speak. I'm not. How to say this? An advocate for Israel. I'm not an advocate for peace with Israel. So this is a big difference. So I'm not an Israeli, and I'm not Jewish.
Okay.
Honorary Jew, some people say, but I'm not Jewish. But I would say that I love the Jewish people so much. And I had the knowledge why.
But you are sensitive character.
Yeah.
Because you come from Muhammad family.
Yeah.
Idris Ashay.
Yeah, but this is a very... But loving the Jews doesn't really mean that you have to be...
Your family,
yeah.
Kings of Muhammad.
That's like all time. That's like all time. But yeah,
Alshareef al-Azhar.
I know.
You hear? By the way, Sisi didn't go to the president way. Till Ashraf give him the go.
We have a great history of our family in Egypt and in Morocco as well, but more in Egypt. I would tell you this, but I'm not really. I don't really think that loving the Jewish people would deviate you from the honor of this family or from being a good Muslim or a person who follows this lineage. But I always say that I promote peace between Arabs and Israelis and reconciliation of relations between Muslims and Jews, and this is what I care about. Really, I'm not an apologist for Israel, but I'm an apologist for peace. And because I saw what hate looks like, I saw what extremism looks like when I was young. I wish to tell people that this is the darkness that you need to leave to reach light.
Where do you see? Where is there you see the hate?
I saw it when I used to believe in radical ideas that Muslims and Jews are enemies, Muslims and Christians are enemies. Honestly, my dear Moataz, this is not only in schools, but this is also in
the mosque.
Not only in the mosque, also in the media. One of my favorite shows when I was a kid was Faris Bila Gawad. It was Faris bin Muhammad Subhi.
Yes.
And also one of the books that influenced my early The Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
Yes.
When I was 15, 16, I read it. I took it by heart that this is the conspiracy that the Jewish people want us to believe in. But when you have knowledge and you find the beauty of God, you see that this extremism that radical Islam teaches you is darkness, and then you move to light.
Kolakavod. And we are so delighted to hear it as Jewish people, but all people should be delighted to hear it. And yet, I ask this question sometimes. I had an interesting conversation with an Israeli relative who, when I spoke with them frankly about levels of hatred that do arise, even here in London, we see some extremist Islam really with unlabeled Islamists, let's say it, absolutely. And I don't mean to say all Muslims or all Islam, that's correct. But there are people who hate Jews, who like to kill Jews out on the streets every Saturday, even during our protests. And he said to me, no, not all Muslims are like that. And I say, absolutely, but not all Jews keep kosher. But kashrut is a fundamental part of the traditional interpretation of Judaism. And so my question is it a fundamental part of Islam that there is this everlasting enmity between Jews that in the Hadith...
You want me to be honest with you? Many people believe so. I don't. But many people believe it's fundamental in Islam to hate Jews and Christians, because there's a verse in the Quran that says, "O ye who believe, never take Jews and Christians as friends." If you believe that this verse is applicable to all Jews and all Christians, then you really have a problem, and you shouldn't be in Europe, you shouldn't be in America, you shouldn't be in the West. If you are true to your values, if you are true to your beliefs, that this verse means you should never accept all Jews and all Christians as friends, then you shouldn't be in Europe. Muslims should leave Europe, should leave the West. If they are true to their beliefs, if this is the belief that should dominate, if you believe that this verse had a historical context for a certain period of time when Islam was born, and there was some sort of tribal coalition here and there, and there has to be some sort of situations where you should only have Arab alliances for a certain period of time, and that period of time ended, then you should tell the world. Then you should tell the world that this verse is no longer applicable. Simple, basic, and elementary. You should have the chutzpah. But when you tell people that you believe that every word in the Quran is literal, and you are living in the UK, or you are fleeing a Muslim country and you're asking for an asylum in America or in the UK, while believing that this verse and other verses and other beliefs are fundamental, then you are a hypocrite.
And yet many people inhabit that exact position, by the way.
I know.
Which is a problem for Europe and,
I know.
and for the UK.
I know.
Mate, I read the Quran in a very unusual way, which is I was hired to read an English language audiobook of the Quran as a voice artist.
Which translation, may I ask?
It was a version called the Majestic Quran.
Abdullah Youssef?
No, somebody here in the UK, I believe around Nottingham, and he did it recently.
Oh, okay. Recently, that's a very important thing.
It was an audition process remotely. I don't think they realized who they hired to read the words Allah. That said, it never got published when they did eventually Google me after I filed the work. Somebody else re-recorded it. But why do I mention it? Because I had to record it, reading it fresh the first time in a modern English translation. And I'll admit I was deeply shocked by parts of what I read, which I read without context of education, even without the historical context being given to me. I was reading it cold. How much is Islam open to reinterpretation or contextualization? Because my understanding has always been, from outside, that this was one of the fundamental problems with a sort of reforming or enlightenment of it, is that there is a hardcore that believe this is the word, this is the final word, it must not be interpreted, this is the last prophet, etc. So how do you square that with...
So you square that, I'll give you an example. Like, let's say, for example, the UAE. I'll give you a very straightforward example. The UAE is a Muslim country. And if you live in the UAE, you've been to the UAE or not yet?
I have actually.
The UAE is the role model of modern Islam. An Islam that is open to the world, respects everyone, has a freedom of religion. A week ago, a big Hindu temple was inaugurated in the UAE. So the UAE leadership thinks of it this way. We're not going to tell people we need to reform, we need to do this and that. We propose a new model, and people with time will follow suit without realizing what's happening, without getting into the details that might be sensitive, that might debunk people here and there, or that would tell people that we have a problem in our religion. But they do it in a very smart way. So they propose a new model that is open, that is not extremist, and people from all over the world, when they come to the UAE, they don't want to leave. I know people from the UK who bought houses, real estates in Abu Dhabi, and they told me, hey, you know what? I prefer to live in this Muslim country and I don't want to go back to the UK. You know what?
Until you do something wrong.
Yeah. So hopefully not. But I'm just saying that this is a good way of reform. And also the Prince of Saudi Arabia, the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, he's doing something similar in moving away from the extremist views by offering a new model of modern Islam. He said it in 2017, we want to go back to the original model. We want to go back to the modern Islam. So I believe in its core, many scholars believe that Islam should not be reformed. That this is it. This is the final thing, and everything should be taken literal. But I really want to ask them, but how do you reconcile?
But you'll ask them, but the first person on their list to kill is the person that's asking that from within Islam, isn't it?
That's a problem. That's a problem. And also,
they want to kill you more than they want to kill me, actually.
Oh, and by the way, I pray, I do Ramadan, everything, but still I'm an apostate because, first of all, how can you believe in peace with Israel? That is something that would make them really, really furious. But I want to say one thing, Jonathan, is that the reconciliation thing is that those who really believe that Islam should not be reformed, that the West is an infidel, that you should never take Jews and Christians as friends, they should leave Europe.
Yes.
Honestly, I should tell them that, okay, please leave Europe, leave the US.
Can we talk about mother? Your mother is Egyptian.
Yeah.
Come from a country which make a peace agreement called peace agreement with Israel, and she is Islamic family. I know that, and great family. As a result of that, can we say that your mother perfect about your point of view? How she?
No, not really.
She's
My mother is a great mother, by the way, and she's an amazing person. I love her so much. She's a religious Muslim. She has her different views that I have about Israel.
support peace.
My mom supports the idea of peace, but the idea of Israel is still, for 70 years you've been telling people a few things, so you can't just take it away from someone.
Support what you do.
She supports what I do in a sense that she knows that it comes with knowledge, and she's so proud of it. But the idea of Israel is still, I to be very honest, every time I have discussions with my mom, she seems to understand.
You visit Israel?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. If you visit Israel and call your mom, what is her reaction you expect? By the way, my uncle,
She would understand.
she will.
She will understand because she knows very well that after 2010, when I returned from Paris, but let me just say, when I returned from Paris in 2010 and I spoke to my mom about the experience that I had with the Jewish family and how I'm changing my views, and she saw that I put lots of time and efforts in learning Hebrew and learning the biblical. That was 14 years ago.
It is interesting to me to talk about your family because it must be really difficult for you to have views which are at odds with your family, however much they respect the way you're doing what you're doing. And how come, if it's not an unfair question, you haven't convinced them?
Yeah, because I'll tell you why. Because first of all, the level of indoctrination of hate towards Israel and towards this Arab-Israeli conflict is so deeply rooted that you need to do the extra mile of education and the extra mile of knowledge to overcome it. It was not an easy thing. I always say in France, when I had this encounter with a Jewish family, I had this inner battle, the inner battle between the texts, the inner battle between the history, the inner battle between what's happened between Egypt and Israel, or the Arab countries and Israel, and the fact that you see and the reality that you see with your own eyes. That was an inner battle. And this inner battle, not so many people succeed at. Some people fail. Some people succumb to the fact that I want to be with the herd. But when you believe that there is something talking to you deep down that this is wrong, this hatred, the eternal enmity that you believe in is wrong, is something that you should move on. And education, knowledge, reading helped me a lot in that. I have family members that support what I do. They cannot speak up because it's very sensitive. But I also have some family members that decide not to talk to you anymore. But it's okay, it's fine. I hope that one day, inshallah, they will change.
Father family or mother family?
Both. Both. But I want to say that it's I don't hate them back. I love them all, of course. And I hope that they change. But I'm a very educated person, so I speak with knowledge and facts. And those who want to listen, they are more than welcome. Those who want to live in the conspiracy theory realm, up to them, not my problem.
So effectively, I think, if I can try and interpret what you're saying, it's a generational thing. It's not something we can necessarily do in our own family or even our own time. Sometimes it takes just an amount of human lives to get us there through education and through expansion of our minds. So
yes,
what you're doing now might work for the next generation, who in turn might work for the next generation. And in that way, we come to live in a more peaceful Middle East world, coexist.
Jonathan, I always say when I die, inshallah, we're all gonna die. But when I die, I want to meet the Lord and tell him that I did my best to spread this message, to stop the bloodshed, to save people from dying, because these ideas bring people to death. These ideas justify the killing. So if you counter them, if you expunge them, if you fight them with knowledge and facts, and you meet the Lord, and he knows very well deep down that this is what I do, and this is the ultimate thing that I do, is to stop the bloodshed, to make people live in peace. This is a message that I want to meet my Lord with.
Loay, are you a religious person?
It depends on what you mean by religious, because what I thought when I was young, that religious means you hate. and I don't hate. But if you mean practicing, I practice.
I'm in belief, I think.
I believe
Like,
in.
I'm a Jew.
I believe in God.
I don't consider myself a religious Jew, but I'm relatively observant compared to some.
I believe in God, and I practice. But I'm not a perfect person, just for you to know. But I firmly believe in God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Firmly believe in God, and I believe that he's. I believe that when I die, I will be resurrected, and I will meet him, and I will be judged by him. So I believe in this part of religion, if you want to say. But the word religious is marred. You know what I mean by marred? Marred in the sense that it means you should hate those who disagree with you. This is why I don't like the word religious. Let's say
No. So that's why I asked, really, because I think there's a level in both of our religions, which is tradition and continuity and heritage.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that you...
we all say that.
Yeah, and you embrace that. But it's fascinating to hear somebody that's embracing that, but trying to come to an accommodation with the rest of your faith, your fellow Muslims. You wish to help them go on a journey that you...
I wish to help the Muslim youth, Jonathan. I'll be very honest. I care about the Muslim youth in the Gulf, in Europe, in America. I see that they will be the future of the Muslim world. And I hope that they come into a realization that Muslims and Jews are not enemies. Arabs and Israelis should live together. A Middle East where the prophecy of Isaiah come true. No nation shall not lift up sword against nation. They shall learn war no more. I care about these people because I was once in that journey that saw what hate can bring them to, and I know now what love can bring them to, and what coexistence and what knowledge and facts can bring them to. So I care about the young Muslims. Muslims are large in numbers.
This is a smart statement in Yom Friday, and this is our weekly prayer.
Yeah.
And there is many sheikhs now say, Allahumma baqtir al-Yahud, Allahumma.
But not in UK, even in the UK?
Even in UK?
Wow. By the way,
in UK?
In Jonathan, these kind of prayers in the UAE are banned. You will never hear them in the UAE. And I think
Muhammad bin Salman make efforts also to revolution, but it's Muhammad make amazing efforts.
Yeah, doubtless.
I think it's so important what you're doing, and we're very grateful for you coming to talk to us about it. And I think the more that we hear from each other's perspectives and voices, the more that we can learn really to coexist and to have a peaceful future. So thank you for doing it, and thank you for all the ways in which you do it.
Thank you so much, Jonathan.
I wanted to ask him for questions before we forget.
Yeah,
one question.
Go on.
How you say to the Qatar government? I know that you have a point of view, smart point of view, UAE coexistence here, and also you respect Prince Mohammed bin Salman steps. Good. But what about Qatar? You always avoid to talk directly about Doha and the Qatar and the Tamim.
No, I tell you what, because 2021 there was an Ula agreement between the Gulf states, between the Gulf states and everything, and I believe now it's smart to get our efforts with the Qataris along, and not to have more disputes that the one we had in 2017. So this is why I always tell you I don't open many doors for that sort of Hamas. I'm just telling my how I see it. I don't open lots of doors for dispute. Now after Ittifaq al-Ula, we have an agreement that we should all work together in the Gulf, and also Qatar is part of the Gulf, and this is why I really hope that Qatar understands the danger that Hamas leaders pose on the Middle East, and I really hope that Hamas leaders be expelled from Qatar. That's what I really hope for.
Okay, you are so smart, Loay.
A diplomat to the core is what I can say. Actually, while we're asking, what do you reckon to Prince William's statement? Did you see that?
I didn't see it. I heard, because I heard lots of things, but I didn't see it.
Okay. No, do you think? I mean,
but I was terrified when I saw From the River to the Sea in the Parliament. That was terrifying. And if I can say something to the English-speaking audience in the UK, From the River to the Sea means one thing: mass murder of Jews. Simple, basic, and elementary. And the way it was put in the parliament was very disappointing in my
So when you saw that being produced
very disappointed.
on Big Ben,
Yeah.
what did you think?
I think that I remembered when I saw a protest in the UK 3 months ago when people were chanting Khaybar Khaybar ya Yahud, and some British also were chanting this, repeating this without even pronouncing the word right, and they don't understand what is the depth of this slogan, and they don't understand what Khaybar is.
They didn't understand also the name of from the river. Where is the river Banduri?
Well, which river was it?
Well, listen, and they just need to watch our episode where we talked about this exact chant, because you're right. And yet, you know, we don't understand it. The police.
Yeah.
So the real problem that we have here is that we're having slogans.
Over-tolerance,
Well,
if you allow me to say it.
yeah,
Over-tolerance.
over-tolerance and ignorance. I think there's an ignorance and a willful blindness, right?
And there has to be a line drawn between freedom of speech and incitement.
I think that's spot on, but here's my question to you as well, actually, because on that, this is very interesting, because when you talk about the reforming leaders in the Gulf now, who are bringing their people into modernity, almost, as you said, just leading them through it without too much questioning, that's possible because they're autocracies or monarchies.
Monarchies.
So,
Monarchies.
okay, let's agree on monarchies. We have a monarchy, but ours is a constitutional monarchy. So Prince William can say what he likes, but the Foreign Office told him what to say. We can't say there's no freedom of speech. We're sort of absolutists about that. And
We are absolute monarchies.
yeah, and we are an absolute democracy theoretically. So I suppose I don't know if you've got an answer for this, but our challenge now is that we're met with an enemy, I'll be as frank as to say, who are absolute and extreme in certain beliefs and behaviors. So the chants you've mentioned, but we also believe in freedom of speech. And so that where to draw that line is a pass the buck between the government and the police.
By educating people about what the chants really mean. If they understand what from the river to the sea means, they would follow suit what Austria and Germany did. Austria and Germany banned from the river to the sea chants in the protests, and
It's called to kill people, to get rid of his.
yeah, but if you don't, with knowledge is very important. And Khaybar Khaybar ya Yahud, Khaybar, I think it's now being drawn out, but it's very important to explain to people with knowledge. That's my answer.
More knowledge. Well, I'm always in favor of more knowledge, and I think that in the fighters for knowledge, you're among the leaders, certainly online and off. I would say. Too.
I hope. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you,
Thank you. شكرا جزيلا.
God bless you, حبيبي. شكرا.
Been a real pleasure. Thank you for watching Peace Talk. That's all we got time for this episode, but do stay with us in future episodes so that more talk can lead to more peace. Shalom.
السلام عليكم.